Okay, good afternoon. Afternoon session might not be the best time for the industrial infrastructure. Lots of information. This program is available under our economic development category. The funding is open year-round until our funding is exhausted. It is not one of our more popular cycles. We don't get a whole lot of applications on this, but it is available, and we like to encourage the project because it does also focus on job creation. So industrial infrastructure is intended to assist improvements to publicly owned infrastructure that allows industries to locate new facilities, prevent the closing of or relocation of a facility outside the state, or to expand existing facilities. So eligible applicants are the non-entitlement cities, villages, and counties. So non-entitlement, again, is the population under 50,000 for cities, villages, and over 200 or under 200,000 for counties. The infrastructure the public entity must own the infrastructure to be funded. Infrastructure owned by the company or a private utility are not eligible for funding. The project must meet the before clause. So this is just simply, will this project be able to go through without the assistance? And there must be confirmed commitment of other partners. So some eligible activities that are involved in this would include streets, stormwater, drainage, water and sewer lines, electrical distribution lines, and then even professional services such as engineering design, any expense to permitting, surveying, and inspection. So to qualify, the project must facilitate the creation of permanent full-time jobs where at least 51% are held or made available to low and moderate income persons. Or it must prevent the close or relocation of at least one private business that would otherwise shut down or leave the area without the proposed infrastructure improvement. It must benefit more than one private business. So example, the water main or a road that would be put in, there must be at least two businesses. Maybe it's in an industrial infrastructure park or an industrial park. And it must support at least one private business expansion or new construction with the LMI job creation. So the business structure can include existing businesses, which are those with 3 years or more of financial history. CDBG may award up to $2 million or $20,000 per new full-time retained job, whichever is the lesser of the two. For startup, which is 3 years or less of financial history, funding shall be limited to the lower of $350,000 per project, 50% of the cost of the infrastructure activities, or $20,000 per new full-time retained job. Now, DED may, at its discretion, award up to $500,000 if the participating company provides a guarantee, letter of credit from an acceptable financial institution. And that would be for the amount that exceeds that $350,000. The maximums of $20,000 per job and 50% of infrastructure costs still would apply. So capital investment is also necessary for this project to go through. And the community is expected to have a match. So a minimum of $1 of capital investment must be pledged by the company for every dollar of grant funds requested. A 15% match by the community is required, and this could be in kind, cash, or a combination. This is usually based on the availability of encumbered city or county funds. Now, it is possible to seek a waiver on this, but that is usually only if the community has been involved in some sort of disaster. The application should indicate that there is as much outside funding coming in as possible. Keep in mind that CDBG is typically gap funding. So it's expected also that the community acts as a partner with DED in offering incentives to obtain the commitment of a company when competing with other states. So this could be offering the tax increment financing, maybe it's reduced land costs, utility hookups, utility rate reductions, or other incentives that a community may have. In most cases, it's desired that the community have a prepared comprehensive proposal that would go to the company from all the parties involved, which would be the city, county, or state. Maybe the utilities are involved, local lenders. It's not uncommon to, at least for us even, in some communities, to get maybe a notice from, say, our regional engagement out of DED, where they've been working with a company that's not ready to reveal who they are. They're looking to locate, and they have gotten with all the partners that are going to be involved who are willing to offer incentives. And so sometimes they will get those in the project development to see if we have any funding available that can assist in this project. So there is still national objective compliance. There's a lot of other things that have to be compliant on these projects, but you do still have to follow all the national objective. And so, as with other projects, you've got to meet those goals of the program. It is the responsibility of the subrecipient, so that would be the public entity, the community, to ensure compliance that is including but not limited to making sure that the proposed project meets the LMI job creation retention national objective, that at least 51% of the jobs created or retained are held by LMI persons, and that proper documentation is created and maintained. Two main pieces of documentation that are required throughout are the job created LMI benefit and the employment status statement. It's also the responsibility of the public entity to maintain oversight on all of the other front-end requirements to make sure that they are completed. It's their responsibility to make sure that the company moving in, that they agree to provide all of the required documents, and that they're willing to submit what is required before submitting the application. Because failure to do that could result in ineligibility or maybe future funding. The employment status statement, along with all the other required documentation, has to be maintained for each of the LMI individual who are hired for the position. So this is all of the employees, and it is the public entity's responsibility to make sure that these are being maintained. And then it's also their responsibility to make sure safeguards are met. So some safeguards include obtaining a list of prospective permanent jobs and their full-time equivalents proposed for the creation by the company, with a breakdown of those positions which will involve the employment of the LMI persons. Identifying those positions that can only be filled by persons with substantial training, the work experience, or education beyond high school, and whether or not the business will agree to hire and train as necessary for the LMI jobs that are required. Another safeguard is making sure that it is included in the loan agreements, the specific LMI job requirements and the standards for compliance, the reporting and the record keeping. The list of jobs must track and identify each job as full-time or part-time based on full-time equivalency and a permanent or temporary. So full-time equivalency would mean that you could take two part-time jobs, say there are two part-time that are 4 hours each. You can combine those and make that one full-time position. And while temporary jobs are not counted, those do still have to be recorded. And again, another safeguard, the employment status statements have to always be available and complete. So only permanent jobs can be considered in determining the benefit for the LMI persons. The temporary jobs, such as construction jobs, may not be counted towards meeting the LMI requirement, but again, it does have to be recorded. Permanent part-time jobs may be considered, but again, have to be converted to that full-time equivalency based on the average number of hours per week for purposes of calculating that 51% benefit. So some conditions that are required, though again not limited to, some conditions could be project specific, the full-time positions or the full-time equivalent. Permanent jobs, the job is located in the same facility receiving the assistance. So if it is a company that has maybe operations in another area, you cannot take that employee and put them in that other area. It has to be in the location that is either relocating or expanding. The employee status statement and a current payroll listing has to always be available. And the jobs need to be new jobs above the current level of employment documented at the time of the award. Jobs are created after the date recorded in their agreement. The alien employment restrictions have to be met, and total jobs equal or exceed the amount pledged, and at least 51% are adequately documented as LMI. So conditions for funding qualifications for the retained jobs include, and again not limited to, jobs known to be held by LMI individuals at the time CDBG funds are provided, or jobs that can be reasonably expected to turn over within a specific time frame and will be made available to LMI individuals. And this could be through a documented turnover pattern, a hiring plan that's been put in place ensuring that the LMI will be hired as preference, and training or outreach targeting LMI persons. And a person may be presumed to be LMI without requiring an individual income verification if the job is located in a census tract that is part of a federally designated empowerment zone or has a poverty rate of at least 20% and is not located in the central business district unless that census tract has a poverty rate of at least 30%. So job creation retention requirements. All full-time equivalent jobs committed for creation by the private business must be held by at least 51% LMI individuals within 2 years of the project closeout. All full-time jobs committed for retention must continue to exist and be held by at least 51% LMI individuals 2 years after project closeout. Failure to meet these requirements could result in ineligibility for future CDBG funding and/or withholding or recapturing CDBG funding. So some additional qualifications to help ensure the project meets certain state level threshold and scoring criteria would be the economically distressed communities or project areas having to be demonstrated. Pervasive poverty and general distress can be met by one of the following. The LMI area must be at least 51% of the residents in that project area show that they are LMI. High unemployment. The local employment rate needs to show that it exceeds the state average. The project area's per capita income could show that it is significantly below the state average. Or the poverty rate could be at least 20% in the project census tract or community. HUD could determine that it is an area of distress that must be in writing and follow those guidelines. They have some other guidelines that are involved in that. Or it could be presumed that the LMI residency is an LMI residency because the employee resides in the census tract where at least 70% of the residents are LMI persons. So application requirements, again, with all of these other requirements, applicants are still required to meet the standard CDBG requirements. So this would include things like your citizen participation, your labor standards, such as Davis-Bacon, the procurement policy, conflict of interest, environmental review is still necessary, having the civil rights documentation, your program income, financial management and reporting still must be occurring, cost readiness must be shown, risk assessment and monitoring will still occur, must have the duplication of benefits documentation, contract management, there will still be closeout and reporting. And don't forget that real property acquisition rules apply if new land is involved. And in this type of project, at this stage, BABA is fully implemented, so that will make a difference in costs. I've just thrown this sheet in here because this will be on our website just to provide some easy access to the income limits and the employment status statement.